Hello, welcome to the Self-Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Unit 21, Survey Design. And our topic is Survey Research Designs. After the formulation of the research question, we must decide the type of design to employ. Research designs for surveys are mainly of two types, namely experimental and descriptive. Experimental designs use environmental arrangements and rely on two or more groups of participants or observations. When a randomly constituted group of 100 children is compared 3 times, the survey design is called experimental. The descriptive design produces information on groups and phenomena that already exist. No new groups are created. Descriptional designs are also called observational or explanatory designs. Now let us discuss experimental designs. According to the Erlin Fink, experimental designs are characterized by comparing two or more groups, at least one of which is experimental. The other is a control or comparison group. An experimental group is given a new or untested innovative program, intervention or treatment. The control is given an alternative, for example, the traditional program or no program at all. A group is any collective unit. Sometimes the unit is made up of individuals with a common experience, such as men who have participated in a war or those who have had undergone treatment at a hospital or those who have attended a particular school. At other times, the unit is naturally occurring, a classroom, business, hospital, or a prison. There are different types of controls. Firstly, there are concurrent controls in which participants are not randomly assigned to groups. Concurrent means that each group is assembled at the same time. For example, when 10 of 20 schools are randomly assigned to an experimental group, while at the same time 10 are assigned to the control group. We have a randomized trial or true experiment. Secondly, there are concurrent controls in which participants are not randomly assigned to groups. These are called non-randomized controlled trials, quasi-experiments, or non-equivalent controls. Thirdly, in self-controls, a group is surveyed at two different times. These require pre-measure, post-measures, and are called longitudinal or before-after designs. Fourthly, historical controls which make use of data collected for participants in other surveys. Finally, combinations of all consist of concurrent controls with or without pre or post measures. Of all the experimental designs, longitudinal designs are used quite often in social research. Now let us move to the next point, longitudinal designs. In a longitudinal design, data are systematically collected over a period of months or years in such a way that it is possible to observe trends in attitudes or behaviors over the specified period. Consider the following example. If a researcher is interested in studying the chances in the spending behavior of the white collar employees, she or he will have to conduct the study at different points of time in a year or periodically. A study of this kind of a problem involves longitudinal or time series design. The next point is trend studies and panel studies. There are two types of longitudinal studies: panel study and trend study. In a panel study, the same respondents or people are interviewed 2 or more times. In a trend study, 2 or more different samples of people or respondents are drawn at different times from the same population. You may have noticed that the television and newspaper media draw samples from time to study trend. Trend studies provide information on net changes and panel studies provide information on both net and gross changes. Suppose at time 160 out of every 100 people say that they would vote for political party A. Between time 1 and time 2, 10 of the political party A voters might change their opinion and vote for political party B, and 5 of the political party B might vote for political party A. Thus, between time 1 and time 2, many people have changed their vote opinion, and this is a gross change. The net result of these individual changes is that at time 2, 55 of every 100 people would vote for political party A. Thus, if we use a panel design, we can count the number of people in our sample who change their opinion between time 1 and time 2. If we use a trend design, we can describe the net change in the population, but we cannot count the number of individual change. If the net change is 5%, from 60% to 55% supporting party A, the gross change might be anywhere between 5% and 85%. Trend studies describe how the distribution of a variable is changing for the population studies. Panel studies describe how individual members of a population are changing. For an example of panel design, there are both advantages and disadvantages to panel designs. Most of the advantages relate to being able to interview the same respondents repeatedly over a period of months or years to see if any changes occur in their thinking and attitudes. If we find shifts in attitudes or reported behavior, we are in a better position to argue that there has been a real change in the population. Another advantage of panel design is that they permit much more information to be collected about each respondent than is feasible through other designs. Panel designs also avoid a heavy dependence on the memory of respondents for information about his time covered by the panel. However, they may still rely on memory for questions about the respondent's past. The primary disadvantage of a panel study is sample mortality. That is, there will be a loss of panel members owing to lack of cooperation, death, or change of residence, etc. Another disadvantage is that it takes a long time to collect data, and hence the costs involved may be more. Further, repeated surveys on the same population may cause respondents to become overly sensitized to their role as selective respondent. Now let us wind up the session and take rest. Thank you very much for engaging yourself with the Self Learning Podcast.